As universal launchers are becoming ever so popular because of all the different other launchers and storefronts that we have to deal with, I feel the need to take a look at every single one that I can. And unfortunately, not all of them are up to my standards right now. So today, let's take a look at GameRoom, a game launcher that might work for you, but it's not working for me. My name is gregandcin, and today we're taking a look at GameRoom. This is a game launcher that is supposed to take all of your games from every single launcher that you have, or most of them anyways, and keep them in one place. And not only that, it also supports emulation, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's take a look at what we have in front of us. So this is a very visually pleasing, for the most part, interface in my opinion. We have a to-add list, which is all the games that you need to add that the scrapers have found on your system, recently added. That's pretty self-explanatory. And all of your games, if you have launched a game from GameRoom before, it'll show up, but I have not done that yet. First, let's just take a look at what all of these symbols and everything might mean. So it's fairly obvious. Every time you hover over a game, you get a play button. If the game is not downloaded and is a Steam game, it'll have this little download icon in the corner. And here is an information symbol, which we'll click on in a second. And if it is a Steam game, it'll give you a time played for Alan Wake. This American Nightmare, I believe it is. I have not played this game whatsoever. And if it is a Steam game or any other launcher that is supported, it will have this icon next to it telling you which launcher it is from. So let's take a look at the information of Alan Wake's American Nightmare. So we get the cover art, and then we get this background, which will show up anytime you hover over a game inside the launcher, at least by default. It gives you all of this information that you can edit yourself. So let's take a look at this edit button right over here. So there's the game's name. You can give it a sorting name if for some reason you don't like the name that is given automatically. This can be useful for games that have inconsistent naming schemes across different titles, such as all the Lego games. They have really weird naming conventions. And then there is a series tab. So if there is a game in a series that it knows that you might have, it'll pop up right here. It says Siri, and I don't know if that's the correct singular, so I should probably look that up. So there is a games path. So if there is a relative path that the launcher uses, such as the Steam paths that Steam games use, it'll show up here. If it is an exe for those type of games, it'll also show up here, such as the local path on your system. It'll monitor a process, which is just an alternative executable that gives you all the playtime stuff, and that's really only useful for Steam games as far as I can tell. You can run the game as an administrator, you can enter your own playtime, and all this other information. This is just for sorting and other purposes. It's not too important in my opinion, and you can enter this in yourself, or you can scrape the information from the independent game database. So if we click on fetch from independent game database, it'll show up right here. This is the one that it should be grabbing. And then there's all these other games that it might be if for some reason that's not correct. There's different wallpapers we can choose from that are from the independent game database as well. And they are for the most part very high res screenshots because they come from the developer themselves usually. Sometimes they're community sourced. So let's just ignore any of these changes that I might have possibly made and take a look at what happens when you want to add a game that has possibly been scraped. And it's looking like it is scanning right now. It does that automatically, I believe. You can tell it to do so manually, which is what I have done, which is why these games are still popping up. And I've actually had this installed for about a week now, and it has not detected all of my Steam games. As you can see, all of the games says 183. That is definitely not all of it, because I have more than the total number of titles that I have on Steam and all the games that I have installed from other launchers. So if we want to add a game, we click on this add button right here, which will give us the same information page that we just took a look at. And then we can also just fetch the information from the independent game database real quick, just so we can get all the information correctly. Let's see if it all pops up, and nothing else will really pop up, which is totally fine. So we can click on this add button. And once it is added, it'll be added in your recently added list and all of your games. So if we take a look at this button right here, it basically does the same thing. It lets you go through all the games that might potentially be added, and you can edit them or not edit them. I don't care about Stardew Valley. It's a very popular game, so all the information is probably bound to be correct. For games that don't have this information though, you'll have to scroll through and find it yourself. So such as A Sprite, this isn't actually a game, this is a tool, so we don't care about that. We can delete this if we feel like it. There's a Morris, which I can't find this on the independent game database. It doesn't seem to really exist. Even the game is fairly new. It is a free-to-play game, and it's just something that I've played for shits and giggles. Please don't make fun of me. It's the same process for any game that does not have its information downloaded. Hanako, it's not a very popular game. I don't expect it to be in the database. Neon Prison, Orwell, this should definitely have something. So let's just take a look right here and do this process one more time. So it should just be Orwell, I believe. So if we click on next, click on this, okay, and save. So I'm fairly certain that's what it should be. The subtitle doesn't really matter for that game. And one thing that does annoy me about the UI, as you've noticed, is that every time you exit a game, it pops you back up at the top. I have not found a way to edit that. So other than that, not a lot of interesting stuff going on. You can probably edit other things as well, such as launch commands and stuff like that. What's going on, guys? Future gregandcin, and there actually is a way to add launch commands. You have to enable advanced mode in the settings, which I show later in the video, but you do have the ability to add these launch commands in these sections. I don't have any for Unreal Gold, but you can do that. Just wanted to let you guys know. Anyways, back to where you were watching. If we take a look at this sidebar where you can add games from a single app, microstore apps, folders, and emulation, the emulation part is a paid bonus, by the way. This is a free and paid tier sort of app, and it's pretty simple. It's just finding an executable or folder, and then it'll scrape it, and then you'll ask it to select a certain exe. If there's multiple exes in the file, you can search for your game. So let's say Counter-Strike. Here's all the Counter-Strike games. There's also a thing where it gives games multiple titles. If for some reason there's multiple Steam IDs potentially registered to the title, like I believe these are 80 and 100, and they lead to the 80 page, so you can't delete those if you want. I haven't found this to be a problem with Play Night, though. This seems to be a problem with how it scrapes the data for these games. If we take a look down here in this customizable section, we can also do a whole bunch of other things, like keep this drawer open on the side. It'll just keep it closed if you feel like it. Hide the top panes. I think that's the keep the games that you need to add and the recently played and stuff like that. So it's not too important. See right there, recently added. It just goes away. The keep cover ratio, this one takes a lot of time to load when you first click on it, and instead of resizing everything to fit within this game box style cover that they have, it'll just use the picture that it scrapes from the independent game database. So if you like everything to look the same, keep that checked, and we're not going to click on it again. There are report invalid games. I've not had one of those pop up yet, so I do not know. There is the show PC icon for games that you manually add, and full screen. If for some reason you want this to be in full screen, I don't care. Zoom is just kind of how big the titles are. Let's just keep it like right there for now, I guess. Zoom that back out a bit. And then disable background image, which is the background image that you see in the back. This one doesn't seem to take as long to load as the covers, so I think that's just because it's one game instead of 100, almost 200 games. And then use static wallpaper. That is a supporter only thing, and it's just, I guess that's if you want to customize it a bit more. Not something I'm personally into. The sidebar also gives you a couple other options as well. You can sort your games by name, rating, time played, or release date, and that's where we saw the sorting name for the games if you want to sort with a custom name. There is a tagging option for themes, genres, the series, and the specific launcher. So if we click on launcher, it'll sort by launcher, and for some reason Yes, Steam and Steam Not Installed are two separate categories. I find that a little bit annoying myself. Series is just like if the game is in a series, like some of these are. And for some reason, games like Board Backlight, that's in a series, even though it's a singular game as far as I know. Genres, themes, etc., etc. So let's just group back by default because I really don't like the grouping options. I find them a little underwhelming in my opinion. There is no way to custom group games like you can in Playknight, Steam, and I believe several other launchers might have this as well. So we've gone through all the cosmetic details that you find. What about the deep settings? So in general, there's the language, start with Windows, all this stuff that you find in other launchers. You can give specific key shortcuts that you can use. It's fine in my opinion. There's not a lot, and most of the time you really won't need to use them. You can check for version, and this advanced mode just gives you a couple extra options which you won't need to do unless you have some bugs that you need to report to the developer. So scanning the games, this is the games folder, so you can manually add these like I have personally. Some of these I probably don't need. There's game scanners for Steam. Installed and non-installed, again, are separate ones, and for some reason the non-installed one just takes forever to get all the games. I don't think it has gotten all of the games that are currently logged to my Steam account that I don't have installed. For other launchers such as GOG, Origin, Uplay, Battle.net, and Microsoft Store, which I find really cool. I like the Microsoft Store one. They only find installed games. There is no option to launch the installer like there is with Steam, which a little bit annoying. I feel like there should be a way to circumvent this or allow it to happen, but I really could not tell you how to do that unless you went the Playknight approach. Again, there is the automatic scan, the Steam play times, and if you have multiple Steam profiles on your computer, you can select which one to use, which I think is pretty cool for one that doesn't have you log into your Steam account automatically when you first launch it like you do Playknight. And then there are ignored games. You can have some on-start settings, which is nothing too impressive except for the power mode. If for some reason you like to have different power modes for your desktop, so like if you want a default one like the balanced one while you're just normally doing your stuff, and then there is a gaming mode, so if you want it on high performance, that's cool. The GUI has some stuff, so if you want to use a controller, you can enable that, but it needs to be plugged in, which I find personally annoying. I wish it would just automatically detect it, but I'm not too into how the coding around that works, so it might be a little bit harder. And there are custom themes, but you have to pay for it again. And the biggest thing that you have to pay for is emulator support. Now, Playknight has this automatically, and it looks to be about the same. You have all the different consoles that it supports, the ROMs folder, the extension of the ROMs if you have multiple extensions, and then what to emulate it with. And you have to pay around €8. I don't know what that transfers into American dollars. I'd assume probably around 9 to 10. So it's not too expensive, but at the same time, Playknight does it for free, and these seem to have been developed in the same time period. I believe GameRoom started in about 2006, Playknight around, I mean, not 2006, sorry. GameRoom started in 2016, Playknight 2017, I believe. I'll correct myself in editing if I'm wrong, but yeah, it seems like the scrolling in this is smooth. This is significantly smoother than Playknight's scrolling when you have the titles covers set up, but Playknight can do the same thing. There is a full screen option. Again, Playknight can do the same thing. I do not believe you can sort in Playknight's full screen option. We'll have to double check that. So if you want a more living room 10-foot experience, or you want a more controller friendly experience, I think GameRoom has that going, but you can do the same thing with Playknight in most cases from what I can tell. And I just think Playknight is a better launcher than this. It's completely free. You have all the support for emulation out of the box with it. It has the same independent game database scraping, and you can do a whole bunch of other stuff with that. The theming system isn't as complex, but they are redoing it in Play Night, so you have more themes from the community potentially, but the theming in this is pretty lackluster from what I can tell. It's just the ones that the developer gives you, and yeah, I feel conflicted, I guess is a word. I want to support other launchers. I want to see this one get better, because I think there are at least some performance improvements with the UI itself, but the way it scrapes games is annoyingly slow. It doesn't support as many launchers out of the box as Play Night. I think Play Night's experience is better, at least when it comes to getting all your games in one place. GameRoom just doesn't have that for me. I'm not as angry as I was initially when I first tried this, but I still can't recommend this for most people. I would definitely recommend giving it a shot, at least if for some reason you don't like Play Night, and which is the one that I'm personally using. I like that a lot, and I recommend you also stay on the lookout for GOG 2.0 when that comes out, because that should hopefully come out within the next couple months, and I'm looking forward to taking a look at that if I get in the beta and they allow me to make content about it. That would be pretty nice. But yeah, and so far this is also only a Windows only application, which might be a pain for people who are on Mac or Linux. So yeah, overall, I feel like there's not a lot else going on here. Play Night just has a lot more options. There seems to be a lot more editing going on in Play Night, with the way you can sort things, with the integration with all the other launchers. Yeah, some UI things kind of bug me. For me, I just can't use this. I like to sort all my games. I use that as one of my several options to sort my backlog. And yeah, GameRoom's just not doing it for me. I don't know if I haven't made that clear enough. It's not something I'm personally into, but I do think some people might find it usable, and at least check it out, download it, see if it's right for you. If you enjoyed this, hit that like button. I'd love to know if you like this or not. Leave a comment down below if there's any other launchers or anything else. Holy crap. That cracked. Holy shit. If you want to help me pay for the thing that just broke, to subscribe so I can get this video monetized, and check out one of the videos on the side. One be one I recommend to you, one be one you to recommend to you. Check out all the links down below to follow me on Twitter and Mixer, and there's other links and stuff. My name is GameRoom, and God, I'm broke.